Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And I wanted to say a big thank you to everybody and a big hello to everybody. And welcome to the Return to Travel webinar that we've got on today, hosted by JTB and myself, and obviously our industry partners and JTB customers we've got with us today. When I say we've got people from all over the world, we really have. We've got people that have joined us now from Japan, all over Europe, North America. We've even got people phoning in and dialing in from Mauritius today. So, maybe they're sat on the beach, but, we've got people all over the world, which is great to see. It really is. First and foremost, just a quick introduction to myself. My name's Kieran. I am JTB Client Development Manager here. I've been with the company now for around a year or so, but I've been in the travel industry now for around 20 years. Like I say, some of you may know me from the industry. Some of you may not, but just wanted to say a big hi to you to start things off. Bit of background about JTB. Most of you know JTB. We are a customer-focused global travel management company. We have this cutting-edge technology to bring the best experience possible to our customers all over the globe as well. And one of the things that has happened over the past year, there's a small thing that's happened called pandemic, COVID-19. Some of you may have heard of it. I don't know. It's one of those things that's been out there just a little bit. But what it's meant is, as an industry, as a travel industry, we've really had to work together. So our industry partners, Air Canada, All Air Nippon and United, we've really had to work together to really support our customers and travel across the globe, or lack of travel, because there's been a lot going on behind the scenes to support people with. The hard work now, we are seeing a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, but the hard work now is continuing even more so when we're looking at bringing travel back to everybody so we can get people moving again as well. So it's important that we work with our industry partners to make this happen for everybody. Just a very small bit of housekeeping before we move on to the important bit and introducing to our amazing panelists. Obviously, you are going to be on mute throughout the whole session, just for the audience out there. But we do have on your panel at this side an area where you can chat to people. So please do interact with people on the session, but also as well, please ask questions. There is a question box on there. Please type the questions in. We will try and answer them as we go along. Try and keep them on topic as well. So we will try and answer them as we're on each individual topic as well. If we don't get around to answering your question, don't worry. All questions will be recorded and we'll get back to you with the answers on those from our experts that we have on the panel today as well. So moving on quickly. So time now is to introduce our lovely panelists. First and foremost, we've just got on the left-hand side of the screen there, we've got Help Debu. He is our General Manager for North America. You won't see him at the moment, but he will join us a bit later on in this session, just to give you a bit of an overview of JTB again. But to start things off, right, so our first panelist is a dog lover. Okay, this dog lover has more corgis than the Queen of England. Okay, so this is really, like I say, a great topic. But just a little bit of information on top of that as well. The Queen of England, you may know, since 18 has owned corgis, and she's had over 30 in her lifetime. Okay, so it's without further ado, I introduce to Lance from Air Canada. Please let us know, Lance, if you're planning to have more than 30 in your lifetime and beat the Queen's record.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Kieran. We've had 5. We have currently 4 because one of them actually, when we had puppies, was sick, and then so we decided to keep him. And then, of course, after about a month, he got better, but then by that time, you're already attached. But if my husband has anything to say about it, we might end up with more than 30 corgis in our lifetime.
Excellent. Please do keep us posted on that, because that'll be absolutely fantastic. Excellent. So just moving along now. So the next person we have has been really involved and, loved the airline industry so much from such a young age. I mean, they've got to a point, when they were 12 years old, they used to get the airline magazines and guide routes from around the world from a local travel agency when they were finished with them. And they used to plan routes with their toy aeroplanes about these amazing routes around the world. So, you know, Mike from United, you know, you're really safe in the hands here with, you know, the actual airline industry and, you know, the routes you can plan. So please do introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, great to meet you. Thanks for that great intro. I am an aviation geek, or hashtag avgeek, and have always been. So it's been great to work for such a global airline, and also to partner with TMCs, because it was a travel agency back in the day that got me started on all this.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mike. Right, so we're going to finish up with our last industry person here. So we've got somebody who has had sustainability in their life since day one. And, you know, it's a really interesting topic. And, you know, to be fair, I'd love to see where you've lived in the past there, because he used to live in the Sierra foothills on a ranch with no electricity whatsoever. No TV, nothing like that, no internet. So, I mean, it'd be really interesting, you know, to understand, you know, how sustainability's played in your life from day one. So over to Cody from All Nippon Airlines.
Hey everybody, good to see you all. Thank you for having me today. Yes, my family and I grew up without electricity on a small ranch with a lot of animals. I guess it was, we were born into it. And, you know, over time, I think towards kind of the end, before I went to college, we did have solar power. So it kind of evolved over time. But this was before solar power was even a thing, I think, for residents. And so now my family have all moved on, but the ranch is still there, and we still visit the new owners who live on the property. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Cody. Right, so last but not least, we have somebody who's joining us today who is one of JTB's customers from Otsuka. So this person is a daredevil, and you're thinking, what was she been doing that makes her such a daredevil? Skydiving in Switzerland, which, you know, to me sounds absolutely fantastic. What a great thing to do, apart from I'm terrified of heights and I probably would be really scared. But, you know, and she, I mean, quotes from Danielle here was, it was an unforgettable experience, but I would never, in capitals, do this again. But over to you, Danielle.
Yeah, hi everybody. So happy to be here. That definitely was a amazing experience, and on one of my amazing trips that I take, you know, way back when I fell in love with traveling and overall this industry. But yeah, I was told before I went that it would be amazing and feel like I was flying, and it did not feel like I was flying. It felt like I was falling very, very fast the entire time. So definitely something that was not for me. That was the most extreme thing that I've ever done, and it will probably be the only time that I ever do that again.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much, and obviously thank you to you all for joining us today and being our panelists. Obviously for you guys out there watching this broadcast, it's great to see, you know, we've got human beings that really are, you know, experts in what they do as well, and working hard for you behind the scenes as well. Okay, so you know, having worked in the travel industry for many years, I've worked with the ash cloud, 9/11. I can see this pandemic, coming out of this pandemic, is going to be a really key, you know, industry challenge and global challenge moving forward as well. So before we go on to this first section here, what I want to do is I just want to open a quick poll that we've got in place. And you'll see that on your right hand side of the screen. The first poll question we have: do you feel that your company have a strategy in place for when travel resumes? Okay, so it's going to be really interesting, the answer to this, I think, because to find out how people and what they're doing at the moment moving forward is going to be really key. So let's have a look. I think we're closing the poll just now. And let's see what we've got. So the polls have now closed, and we have, so 64% of you are ready for when travel resumes, which is fantastic. We have 14% have started to plan but not ready. 18% thinking about it, and 5% say you don't need a strategy for when you're coming out of this. Okay, I mean, it's great to see all these different answers in here and what comes out of this. But I think this session today is going to be really important for everybody. For those people who think they're ready, it's going to be important because there might be something you've missed. And for those that, you know, haven't done anything yet, it is going to be key for you guys looking at this and helping move it forward, which is really good. So for our panelists, let's open it up a bit. So tell me a bit more about yourselves with regards to what you're doing behind the scenes at the moment, because, you know, we've heard about what you do, who you are, you know, we've got your daredevils out there and all those sort of things. So what issues and what things are you dealing with on a daily basis? I mean, let's open this up to Lance to start with.
Really, for my job, it deals with dealing with corporate customers as well as agency customers, as well as here in the San Francisco Bay Area, dealing with the local community, including the consulate in the area. So everybody really wants to know, really, when you travel, what does it really consist of? You know, there are concerns about documentation, which countries can you actually go to? There's a few you know, companies that are out there that go to some of the oddest places that aren't London or Japan or some standard, and really, you know, do you need testing? How far in advance do you need testing? So in the beginning, when the COVID started, it really was changing, you know, every day, sometimes even every hour. We actually had a customer that was flying to Europe, and in the middle of their flight, they actually changed the regulation to get into that country. So we actually had to turn them back and send them back to Canada. But now it does feel that things are becoming a little bit more stable. You know, you do have more advanced warning if there are changes. Positive changes are coming out. For example, Canada, as of yesterday, if you are allowed into the country and you are fully vaccinated, you don't have to do the 3-day hotel quarantine. You don't have to do the 14-day quarantine. And you don't have to do the day 8 testing. So there are things that are out there that are changing for the positive.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really key that the whole industry is keeping up to date and up to speed with things. I'm quite interested in what you mentioned there about the person who was flying with the regulations. I mean, how was that managed while that person's in the air? You know, were they made aware on the flight, and how did you support them? And were they working with a TMC at the time to support them?
In that one, I'm not sure about the TMC, but, you know, they are made aware during flight that, you know, they will not be allowed into the country. They do not actually, they will be escorted within the secure area. So they do not actually go to the customs or to get out of the, you know, and check out. They will actually be brought back into the terminal and ticketed to be returned onto that. But that was very early, and I want to say that was probably around like April of last year. So we haven't had incidents like that. Before people are actually boarded now, their documents are checked very thoroughly to make sure that they do have their testing in place, they are allowed, they do have the proper documents if they are going to a certain country that requires, you know, official visas and things like that. So, you know, I think traveling is a lot more easy. Well, maybe not easy is the best way to put it, but at least there is that sense that if you do have everything that you need, as soon as you get on board, you know what to expect.
Yeah, and I suppose working with travel management companies and inter-airline and stuff to actually get the right information across to people. I think information at the moment is quite a key thing for everybody, is having and receiving that updated information. I mean, so when we're talking with regards to other airlines, so for Mike, yourself, how are things looking at the moment with regards to United? Is it a similar sort of setting for you?
Sure, yeah, so I'll just tie back into my role. So my role is multifaceted because I've got business development, our SME portfolio, which is about 1,500 corporate accounts, as well as our Japanese community in the U.S., corporate and TMCs, and then finally U.S. government and military travel. So there's a lot there, but to boil it down to what's really changed and what the trends I'm seeing is that, you know, just acute need for information, like what Lance described about, you know, everything logistics and travel and what they need to have their travelers feel comfortable. But then also it's gotten more tactical than usual. You know, typically we're really strategic and thinking a little longer term. And this is all about, what are you going to do for my contract renewal? Will my travelers have their status? what's going on with that. And so we've just rolled our sleeves up. What do I do with these unused tickets? And so the team's really focused on those, which are really tactical, but so critically important for where we are right now. That said, we're also doing some cool things to find new ways to connect and stay in touch with our customers, doing things like video, doing more webinars. Just communication has been critical throughout this crisis. And so there's things that even once we start getting back to in-person meetings, some of those things won't change, and that's an improvement.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things is you've mentioned again there, the word information is quite a key one that's coming over, is a transfer of information. So I suppose, Cody, I mean, would you mind touching on with us with regards to how you actually work as a company with with travel management companies? So the transfer of information to us, but also the likes of, you know, our customers as well. How is that information being passed over?
Yeah, so it's a good, you know, for us, my kind of, well, I should back up a little bit for my role. Primarily, my role in the U.S. is more the sales strategy development for the U.S. or the Americas region, and then oversee kind of the TMC partnership strategies. And then tagging on this year, we're because of COVID primarily, but it's about sales effectiveness and kind of process efficiencies and sales digital transformation initiatives that we're kind of doing while we're all in lockdown. So anything we can do more efficient and communicate quicker. So to tag on to that, I think that you know, with information coming at us faster than ever nowadays, and things are changing so quickly, my team and I are really trying our best to kind of leverage our B2B platforms, our communication platforms. So we have like an efficient exchange or access to relevant information that the TMCs need. And so we are able to kind of upload and put that information right on our portal. So there's self-serve refunds and waiver guidelines and all that kind of other resources in a way that works best for our TMC partners. So no matter whether TMC is contacting us or going on our platforms, kind of making some of the more complex things a little bit more efficient, ultimately easier for our TMC partners to do business with us.
That's great to hear. So it's great to hear obviously what the airlines and where you're at with this part of things now. Can I just obviously touch base with you, Danielle, there with regards to what are you seeing at the moment? You know, well, what's your role? You know, tell us a bit more about what you do within Otsuka itself.
Yeah, so it's so interesting hearing, you know, Mike, Lance, and Cody kind of talk about their roles, because it's basically the same, just on the flip side, right? Like that focus on that strategic long-term growth of your company and where our travel program is going and changes that we need to make long-term, but I'm being much more tactical, right, on a day-to-day basis because of COVID. You know, in my role, I oversee the day-to-day operations of our travel and expense program, and our department also owns the T&E policy, and we manage all of our travel suppliers. So we also, in addition to that, with, you know, that day-to-day kind of function, I take a lead role in the consolidation of all of our North American affiliates and kind of creating this regionalized travel and expense program, and making sure that information is funneled to the affiliates as well. Some of the daily things that we're running into from a tactical standpoint is questions around, you know, can I travel for this? What's the requirements if I need to go here? And what am I allowed to do? What are behaviors that should be followed while I'm traveling if travel is approved? So a lot of those more tactical, like managing the business so we can get our business done while traveling. And then long term, it's just really reevaluating our partnerships with our travel suppliers long term, right? Because strategies that we had in place prior to COVID may not be the right strategies long term. So we really need to take a deep dive and look at those partnerships to make sure that they continue to be mutually beneficial to both parties, right? And not just one-sided, because it really is a very changed landscape. And then lastly, that, Cody, that thing that you were mentioning about, information and making sure that we're putting the right and most accurate information in the hands of our employees at all times. So we've implemented a lot of processes and procedures to make sure that our travelers have the most up-to-date information based on the destinations that they need to go to, has been really key in developing these new processes.
Excellent. And I think you've obviously this information thing's coming through here quite a bit with what people are saying here, and I think comes part and parcel with possibly something we'll come on to a bit later on with technology and how I think that's going to support moving forward as well. I mean, how are you feeling, Danielle, about what the industry, how things are at the moment? I know in different areas of the globe, there's different effects and people are at different stages, but how are you feeling? Feeling a bit hesitant, optimistic about what's going on, or let me know.
I feel super optimistic about where we're going and what we've been seeing just in the last few weeks, right, of the trends that we're seeing within travel, especially related to domestic. I think obviously international travel is a little bit slower on the comeback, and we have a bit more obstacles that we have to overcome and some more intricate processes that we're going to need to put into place. But overall feeling, very optimistic. I also think it's not just, from my standpoint as the corporate travel manager for our organization, but also our employees are feeling very optimistic about getting back on the road. We reopened up domestic travel in mid-May, and there has been no hesitation from our travelers. I think that was one of the questions that we had asked ourselves prior to opening up is, we can open it up, but how is everybody going to feel about traveling? And it is, they are chomping at the bit to get back out there. So it's not just an optimism with me, it's also, an optimism within our organization. The only, I think, hesitancy I have is, feeling for the industry and what it's going through right now. Obviously, there's staffing level concerns and, so we're a bit anxious about that and whether our suppliers can really have the ability to support our needs because of that. So we're taking really thoughtful steps to educate our travelers to incorporate this, practice patient with while traveling, and to really make them understand that, the travel industry took a really big hit, and that your expectations of traveling pre-COVID may not be the same post-COVID. So really just enforcing that practice patience when you are back out on the road, because it looks very different, especially due to the staffing level issues that the travel industry has been hit with.
So, I mean, that's a very good comment, that, actually. And I think maybe one of the guys, maybe Mike, do you want to pick up on that and share your thoughts on, obviously, the comment there from Danielle?
Specifically about the staffing, or just kind of to tie into her general overall optimistic feeling?
Yeah, the optimistic feeling, but then also going on to, how you feel that you as an airline, how are you going to support the travelers moving forward? Because obviously, staffing levels have been affected quite dramatically. So what does the future look like for that part?
Sure, happy to. So first, I'm also very, very optimistic. I mean, human nature is to connect with others. And we saw that as soon as things started to open up with leisure travel. And now, as Danielle indicated, with business travel, in fact, we saw a 10 to 17 point increase, depending on the size of the company, in business traffic from May to June. So it's coming back, and it's coming back in rapid clips. And that's what we're hearing as well from, many other customers and from GBTA surveys. The fact is that it's going to become a competitive advantage to be on the road and to be making sales calls and to be connecting with your clients and to be there in person. As for the industry, it is really challenging, but it's not challenging across the board. So, for example, at United, one of the decisions we made about a year ago was to figure out how to be very planful about the recovery, because we anticipated that there would be a recovery and that it could be quite fast when it happened. And so we worked really closely with our unions, and we're the only airline, at least in the US for sure, to not retire large numbers of aircraft. And when you do that, it has a big impact on pilots specifically, because pilots are only type rated for a specific aircraft type, which means they all have to go back to training. And that creates a huge bottleneck because there are only so many simulators. And so by having an agreement with our pilots to figure out how to stay on board and not getting rid of the aircraft they flew, we're able to actually keep that in place. And we were also very flexible with other unions and have been successful in bringing people back. So, we're fortunate right now that we're not facing some of the operational challenges that have been in the news of late. That said, we do have some new technology. One in particular is called Agent on Demand. And through the United app, you can just connect with an agent, like FaceTiming, basically. You get an in-person agent on your phone, face-to-face if you want, or it can just be via chat. And they don't have to be in the same airport. So the key there is if there's any kind of operational issues, we've had some pretty big thunderstorms in the last few weeks in Chicago. But let's say Houston is fine weather-wise, then there's plenty of agents in Houston that can help by FaceTiming with our customers in Chicago and getting them on their way. So that's been a technology that we adapted during COVID because we didn't want people to talk face-to-face with the agents at the airport. We wanted to give them a socially distanced option.
Mike, can I ask
great to hear.
sorry, I'm so sorry. Can I ask a question about that app? I think, something that the pandemic has done, right, is really put a focus on that duty of care, right? Making sure that our travelers are booking through the right channels. So, when apps like that are mentioned, it's a red flag for me, right? Because then I'm thinking, okay, while it's convenient for the traveler, from a duty of care perspective, that's not in line with the message that we're trying to send to our travelers. So how do you balance that, right, of wanting to be there for your corporate partners and for their travelers and getting them where they need to be, but also making sure that our proper booking channels are funneled over processes like that?
Sure, great point, Danielle. And I think the difference is if your travelers are already accustomed to, connecting with JTB, let's say there's an irregular operation and they know to go to JTB and they go to JTB, that's outstanding. This does help remove those long queues in airport terminals that are always on the news whenever there's any kind of delay program, and it helps travelers that may not have the support of a TMC, which there still are, a lot of travelers out there, especially with leisure travelers these days that don't fly very often usually.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great point there, and I think you've highlighted there, and I think Mike's mentioned there. I mean, I'd say it's probably a bit more guided, the leisure side of things there, that sort of app. Even though the technology, that sounds fantastic, but for the likes of JTB, etc., obviously duty of care is a huge part, and we'll go on to a bit later on. The likes of offering that 24-hour service wherever people are in the globe, and obviously the technology we've got behind there for duty of care as well that we offer will be fantastic. We could talk for hours on these individual topics. I'm just going to quickly move on to our next topic, which we're going to talk about global travel and safety, which is now again, looking at what's happening moving forward as well. And we've just briefly touched on duty of care. It was a bit of a topic before COVID. It's now a major consideration for most companies moving forward about how they support their staff moving forward, and making sure the correct procedures are in place as well. So, I mean, it'd be good to understand, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be delays, inconsistency process and stuff like that. I mean, how are these going to be managed within the process of what's happening nowadays? So for the challenges part and stuff. So Lance, I mean, how do you think all of this is going to be managed in the future now?
Well, if you look at it, there are a lot of challenges that are out there, I think, right now, because COVID, I don't think it's 100% understood. And then if you look at all the countries, they have their responsibility to make sure that they keep their citizens safe. So I think for some time, there will be a little bit of processes that won't match up. For example, the US is fairly open for travel with little restrictions, except for masks on board, versus if, for example, going to certain countries in Asia, such as China, you need to get a COVID test at your last point of departure. So if you're doing a connection, let's say from Omaha to San Francisco, you need to get your COVID test in San Francisco because your one in Omaha is not valid anymore. So I think there are challenges like that going through, and it was really with the airlines to kind of work with the countries to make sure that the regulations are understood. Even pre-COVID, there were always certain tests that were required to travel as a traveler. For example, if you wanted to go to Kazakhstan, I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but you actually needed to get an AIDS test to be allowed to enter the country. So, there are certain regulations that are out there. Airlines have to make sure that we work with the countries and understand that what their specifics are, and then of course meet that and make it easy for the traveler to understand that this is what you need to enter. So I think especially if you look at technology, there are a lot of discussions about digital passes, uploading test results, getting the information out there. For example, in the Air Canada app, we do put out the announcements that you do need a COVID test for the majority of countries that are out there 72 hours before. We are actually doing digital upload through Amadeus Traveler ID for flights from Frankfurt to Toronto or Montreal, where you can upload your COVID-19 negative test results to be allowed to take your flight. And, I think things like that, just making it a little bit easier to just upload things. And just when you get to the airport, your information is already there. And then that makes it a little bit easier peace of mind for your travelers as well.
Fantastic, and it is. I think it's having that process in place and knowing how to manage that coming out of things. You've mentioned there about vaccinations, quarantines, all those sort of things which are going on at the moment. One of the things that's in the news quite a bit is looking at like health passports and things like that. So Cody, I just wanted to, there's been a recent blog about Common Pass and health passports. I know there was a trial recently. So do you want to share a bit more about that trial and the findings from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just to go back a little bit, what can we do? I was just thinking about denied boarding cases when people, customers don't have the correct certificates or the testing requirements. And so, at ANA, we're kind of going back to old school, creating checklists and trying to push information out through our website and through the TMCs to make sure that that checklist is in place and in the hands of customers, just so we kind of avoid those mishaps at the airport. But this is kind of in the stage before we actually have some health certificates or some digital pass in place. So going on to that, yeah, we're I think most have heard of some of the trials that we're running, but I think with the constant changes to the international travel requirements really is adding to the complexity, at least for the first trip that the customer is going to take. It's probably the most complex for everybody. The IATA Travel Pass will ultimately help to verify the compliance with COVID-19 requirements using the health credentials securely linked to the customer's identity in a digital passport. So some of the specifics surrounding the results of our trials, we can't really release it yet to the public, but I can say that they are going well. I got the latest information late last night from our headquarters, but we've conducted a couple of trials in May and June on routes from Haneda to Honolulu and to New York. And through the trial, the app was used to show proof of COVID-19 test results for check-in, verify whether the travelers met the requirements for the destination, and also securely kind of shared the results with the authorities and of course ANA as the airline. So as part of the post-trial, we conducted several surveys with both the participants and our airport staff to understand how this process is really working from the operations standpoint and from the customer's perspective. But as what will, I guess, drive our decision making moving forward with a tool like this, I can say that it's really about making the travel experience more seamless and contactless and secure.
Yeah.
How do we do this all together and make something so complex really simple, right? But a big part of the effort, I think, for the decision making from ANA's perspective is how we can create the momentum for digital certificates in Japan and for the governments to recognize the importance so they can accelerate their efforts ultimately to open the borders, which is really part of the confidence building with the government. to help reopen without quarantine. But I think it's kind of both angles, from the government, from the customer, from the airline. And so the IATA travel pass, there are still, what we're finding from the actual trial, there are still, various technical issues that we have to overcome with the app before we can have some full-scale implementation. Reading the passport or receiving the test results, there's some complexities with it, but it's ultimately another issue that we found too, I can say, is that the usage of the travel pass is how to scale the labs for testing. So meaning, how do we onboard the labs into the app to make it easier, more choices where they can go test, customers can test. So on the other hand, the IATA travel pass will be needed to integrate with our PSS systems, accepted by the government, and then from the customer value proposition, making it available in different languages. There's a lot there that needs to be overcome for us, but the next step for us is meeting with IATA after the trial has ended with the feedback, present our trial findings to them, and then of course use it on the other side from our government office perspective, is how we advocate to the Japanese government, together with like Scheduled Airlines Association of Japan, including Japan Airlines and IATA. So we all want to kind of use it from that angle too with the Japanese government to kind of close that. So it's not quickly right around the corner for us, but it's exciting. I think that we have a ways to go before we make a determination on it. But yeah, stay tuned for further announcement.
It's just really interesting to hear the steps that we're all going through now to get people traveling again, and all the governments, etc. So, Danielle, it'd be really interesting to understand what these health passports, etc., would mean for a business, and how, I would say, is it going to be managed within regards to your travel policy and moving forward, really?
Yeah, so my personal opinion is that the health passports, they're a safety and security check, to make governments feel better about letting people into their countries. But really, I think about resuming travel, it's really going to be about kind of like what Lance said, right? It's the easing of these restrictions and these complicated processes that vary from country to country, and like very similar in the US. For a while, all of the states had different requirements and restrictions. It didn't matter which state you went to, it was varying across the board. And as soon as we saw some of those alleviate, there was no quarantine requirements anymore, that's when we felt more comfortable putting our travelers back on the road, right? Because does it make sense to have someone travel internationally, or anywhere for that matter, for a 3-day work meeting, just to have them return home or get there and have to quarantine for 10 days, right? Like, it's just like, it doesn't make sense, So I think that we're really, while I think that the digital passports are really going to make everybody feel a lot more secure, like Lance said earlier, there was many countries that had immunization requirements already, right? So this is just adding on to that. But in my opinion, it's really going to be around the relaxation of these restrictions. And I think that there's more of a process building for us managing that than there is making sure that people are submitting their information through the digital health passport.
There is, yeah. I mean, the digital health passports say things, and like I say, we've got all these different restrictions at the moment across the globe that are slowly, things are slowly getting back to normal. Like in the UK, hopefully next week, we're not going to have to wear face masks, like not going to be mandatory to wear them. So, I mean, we've had a question in, actually. It was quite an interesting one, which is aimed at the airlines. Is what are your thoughts moving forward with regards to the mandated use of face masks, or wearing of face masks in airports and on the planes? Can you see an end to this in the near future? So let's go, Cody. Let's see what you think on this one.
I don't know, this is a trick question. I don't want to turn it into a political topic, but but I think, ultimately this is really about the increasing the vaccination rates in each country. And I think that that number is what's really going to open the border. And as Danielle and Lance, everyone was saying, that's really, talking about vaccination, I think that's really the key factor. Now, when that goes up, I do think that the mask wearing will probably be dropped. But if I had a crystal ball, I wish I could tell you, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. Maybe Mike or Lance have some other perspective on that that I don't know. Maybe by region. I think in the United States, where the restrictions are so improved from before, that it may happen in different areas, but then you're going to have to manage the different policies. So, but we can do it. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Just right, let's move on. So we've got sustainability, technology and sustainability, which I think is going to be, it's a key topic moving forward. It really is. Technology has played, a huge part in travel in the past, but in the future, it is going to be even bigger than ever. Even with JTB, we've got a lot of technology in there that is high-powered technology. It's going to add to that user experience and make things a lot better for travelers moving forward. Just to start this one off, though, I do want to just reach out to everybody in the audience again and put a quick poll out there. So our poll number 2 is, when travel resumes, what will be your company's key priorities? We have, first of all, duty of care, cost saving, seamless travel experience through smart technology, or sustainability. I think all 4 of those topics there are going to be key and are on people's agendas, but it'd be interesting to see what are going to be the key topics. And it's looking like duty of care is coming out on top at the moment. So at the moment, we're looking at 62% of you feel duty of care, 15% cost saving, and then 23% seamless travel experience through smart technology, and none on sustainability. Oh, okay. That's obviously it's an interesting topic, this, whereas sustainability, I think, is something that is going to be quite a big thing moving forward as well. But obviously we've covered duty of care quite a bit already. So technology, what's out there now, what can you see the future looking like for technology? I mean, Mike, you've already told us a bit about technology with like the FaceTime bits and stuff. What's new? What's going on out there?
Yeah, so there's so much, but a couple other examples are, we have a technology that we call Connection Saver, and it essentially helps travelers, or helps our gate agents make informed decisions if travelers are coming in with a very tight connection, and it helps them make better decisions about when to keep the door open a little longer and then when they do need to close the door. So for example, this industry has been pretty dogmatic in the last several years about closing the door 10 minutes before departure, that's it, no questions asked, leaving people at the door when the plane's still at the gate. That's a horrible experience. And we all know that there's times when you still arrive very early. And so we use all of our forecasting data, frankly, to really understand, well, how long could we hold this plane and still get it on time so that other people on the plane don't misconnect. So that's one really cool technology that has saved tens of thousands of people's connections and created a better travel experience. And that's really what we're trying to create. There's also investments that we're making in new technologies. United just created a new venture firm, United Airlines Ventures, which is a firm that will invest in new travel, new technology, and new sustainability technologies. So it's definitely a thing that we're focused on in the future. We're putting our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think moving forward, it is going to be that the travel experience through technology is going to be key. Through JTB, we have a fantastic online system. We've got applications that support those systems as well, with the likes of, World Aware, with the global risk monitoring. Over to the consumer, I say the customer view, Danielle, what do you think your travelers want to see moving forward with regards to technology?
Yeah, so first, Mike, I have to tell you how happy I am to hear about the connection flight technology. I have a nightmare of a personal experience that happened to me just a few weeks ago of being stuck in the Chicago airport for 10 plus hours because I missed my connection by about 4 minutes. So I'm so happy to hear about that one. But from enhancing the customer experience, it's super important. I think there's companies, like you mentioned, WorldAware already, that really are able to enhance the customer experience from a duty of care perspective while traveling. But there's also these new technology companies that are putting that type of service, that type of duty of care service, but also informing them as much as possible. Companies like Tripkicks and that are layering on top of your online booking service to really inform your traveler before the reservation is even made, right? So it's giving us the ability to get to a point, even maybe from an international standpoint, where we can stop, micromanaging and approving these trips, where we can empower our employees to say, here's the information that you need, we're arming you with everything you need. Now you can make the decision that's right for you, right? So personally, from an international standpoint, that's not where we are now, but I'm hoping that we can get to that point. And we are partnering with a company like that to give us that capability, and we rolled out a duty of care service provider actually right before COVID hit. So we rolled out our partnership with that company, and then we weren't able to actually roll it out to our employees because we stopped traveling. But it was really exciting when we did begin to travel again, that we were able to not only let everybody know that they could travel domestically again, but all of these amazing ways that we've enhanced the travel program with all of these different technologies. And it really just shows our employees, we're putting your safety top of mind, and we're making sure that you have the most up-to-date information as much as possible. And it's all made possible because of these technologies that are being developed.
It is, and I think moving forward it's one of those areas which is really key. With regards to looking at technology and partnering up with a new partner that JTB have in place, one of the things called Sherpa, what we're looking at is that confusion part about what do I need to go into that country? Do I need particular documents? Do I need particular vaccinations? Do I need to quarantine? So the new technology we're introducing will allow us to actually look at this on a route by route basis and give people that up-to-date information as to what they're going to need. And like you said about Tripkicks as well, Danielle, there it's understanding what they need to do before they travel as well, and the restrictions that are in place. I mean, from an airline's perspective there, Cody, what are your thoughts about that and that technology part moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, it's such an important part of how we evolve as partners in this industry. I think from all angles, I would say, on from the customer experience and the technology standpoint, similar to what Mike was saying, at ANA, we, like most carriers, have constructed a similar kind of customer experience or CX platform, which is a digital platform that links the customer information with operational information, connection times, where they're going, those types of information about the customer. But we can integrate not only that, but feedback from the cabin crew of things that they know about the customer, or what they like to drink, or when they like to eat, those types of customer experience level information. But by integrating those multiple systems virtually, the platform allow the customer information and operational information to be stored in different divisions and aggregated across ANA, the ANA group as a company. So in this way, the information can be required at each stage and accessed by anybody along the journey. And then the services that provided by the CX platform and the people from the cabin crew or the check-in staff, they will complement each other and allowing us to offer more kind of finely detailed service that maintains or improves kind of the customer satisfaction or experience and the value of the experience that we can offer. So I think from multiple angles, from from JTB business travel and from the airline perspective and from the corporate buyer's perspective, how do we link this up and use this data in a positive way to really really focus on the customer experience and making that kind of process a lot easier and seamless.
No, it's fantastic, and it's good to hear that everybody's thinking about this part as well. I'm conscious of time, so there's a topic here. Obviously, we've got a nice, beautiful aircraft here in front of us now. Mike, tell us a bit more about, sustainability is a big topic. Tell us about this beautiful plane.
Yeah, Boom Supersonic. So United announced, a couple of months ago now, that we are planning to invest in, or we've invested in Boom Technologies, which is developing this supersonic airliner, and have also announced that we're planning to order the aircraft when they're available, which is expected to be a little ways away. It's looking like 2028, 2029, because it's just brand new technology. This is one of the things we're investing in with our United Airlines ventures. And just what's exciting about it is that by investing now and being here at the ground floor, it helps us work with Boom to design this to be so that it can run on sustainable aviation fuel. So the engines are optimized for that. Sustainability is a huge, huge priority for United. We have a goal, a commitment to be carbon neutral by 2050, and 99% of our emissions are jet fuel, bottom line. And that's just where it's coming from. Sure, we have some electricity and some ground equipment, but it's jet fuel. And so, sustainable aviation fuel is going to be a big part of reducing our emissions. We're also looking at new technologies like our investment in Archer Aviation, which is creating eVTOLs, so vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that can be used to get people from local areas to the airport in a carbon-free manner, carbon-neutral manner. And then finally, we're also looking at ways and have invested in a company that's developing technologies to pull carbon out of the atmosphere, carbon sequestration. So it literally takes huge fans, and we can pull it and you can store it in the earth for millions of years. and so it's all the above. It's really different than carbon offsets. So carbon offsets don't actually take carbon out of the atmosphere, doesn't actually reduce your carbon output, and you can't plant enough trees on this planet. There's not enough surface space in order to have enough carbon reduction from the trees. So it's super important. But the Boom Supersonic is exciting because it's great for customers to reduce travel times and great for the environment since it can run on sustainable aviation fuel.
No, sustainability is a big thing for me. I think it's really key moving forward. What about Otsuka? Danielle, what's your view on sustainability and how, have you got any plans for helping reduce carbon footprint down across the globe?
Yeah, so it's funny, I was laughing when that poll came up and how, there was a zero response for priority of sustainability, because I have to be honest, I think the focus for us has been so put on, duty of care and, making sure it's a seamless process when booking, making sure that all of our employees are getting access to the information needed, that it's not necessarily been a huge focus of ours in the past year, just because we've been sunsetting some travel restrictions and building new policies. I do see this topic becoming more of a priority in the coming years. But when this does happen, I think that there's going to be a lot of focus on our partnerships with our suppliers to understand their processes and what they're doing to maintain sustainability, to making sure that we're aligning and partnering with the right vendors that our initiatives are aligned, right? So it sounds like maybe our suppliers are a little bit more ahead of this, which is good, because when this does become a topic, we're going to circle back with you and say, tell us your processes and procedures that are making this happen, because we still want to be traveling and meeting in person. The other thing that I will say is, in addition to this duty of care technology, is I think that there's a layering of sustainability with these technologies where, there's markings when you're in an online booking tool to show you which hotels are rated highly from a sustainability perspective. And then again, it's all about empowering your employees to make decisions on, who they're picking and making sure that we're partnering with preferred vendors that have those indications. And that we're informing our employees that you're picking a hotel or you're picking a supplier that received this rating,
Absolutely. And you know, Cody, just a quick question around, you know, do you think it's going to, you know, all these sustainability, climate friendly options, do you think it's going to increase the costs? And do you think people as businesses are going to want to pay those costs to reduce those carbon footprints down?
Again, you're always asking me with the tough questions that I have to predict, but I would say no. I think it's a big part in the airline business is that is our future, and so we, you know, if it's going to increase cost beyond what we're currently doing, I think that's something that um, we have to be aware of. But you know, to predict it is difficult for me to say. But I I think. When we talk about like SAF, like sustainable aviation fuel, I think that the whole point of this is about the procurement of it and the utilization of that, but in a cost-effective way. And if it's not cost-effective for the airlines, we wouldn't be able to do it. And so, I think that that's the direction we have to go. And you know, offsetting the price to the customer is not what we want to do. We have to be competitive in the marketplace. And so yeah, so I would say no, but I could be wrong.
I
Don't hold me to
would like to
that.
chime in real quick on that. Just that it is, I mean, we actually have a partnership with 14 companies that have invested money or even their unused tickets in investing in part of our sustainable fuel to get the credits for that. So that's brand new. We just came to market with that a few months ago. But the thing with sustainable aviation fuel is that we need to get to scale. Right now, it's a couple bucks higher per gallon than jet fuel, and we need to bring that down. But the only way to bring that down is for scale. And so it's from, you know, airlines to make commitments, other industries to make commitments where it's applicable, and frankly, corporate accounts, corporations that have sustainability as a high priority. To invest in sustainable aviation fuel is also something that can really truly help the environment.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think well, when you look at,
Danielle?
you know, anything related to sustainability, there's usually, you know, a high upfront cost, but the long-term return on investment is always there, you know, and I think that that's what the focus needs to be as our industry tries to make this transition, you know, to say that, like, you really need to focus on the long-term ROI rather than the immediate, what is this going to cost me up front?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the slide behind. I'm just really conscious of time. So Lance, do you want to quickly whisk through this particular slide?
I just wanted to say that, yeah, very similar to all of us, we are trying to get net zero by 2050. And just about the sustainable aviation fuel, it's not only the availability, you know, just locally, it's also by country, because some countries are further behind. So unfortunately, you can have sustainable aviation fuel going out, but going back, you may not have that option. So, you know, definitely we're working with a lot of companies in Canada to see how we can contribute to that. And, you know, as Mike mentioned, you know, we also are very conscious outside of just what our operations are doing. You know, what are we doing on board with reduced plastics? You know, we got rid of other plastic stirrers on board. We're trying to get rid of plastic bags. And of course, there are always costs, but is the cost, you know, better for the environment as well?
Good to see everybody's doing the bit to obviously for the environment there. We're close to running out of time here. So what I'll say with NDC, obviously it's a topic we were going to discuss at this point now. For those in the audience, if you do have any questions about NDC, which is new distribution capability, please do post the questions on here, and we'll get our panelists to review those questions, and we'll get back to you with the answers to those as well. Just to finish up, sorry we didn't get to obviously cover off that topic. I just wanted to briefly hand over to Mr. Hertebu, who is our General Manager of North America.
Thank you, Kieran, and thank you, Danielle, Mike, Lance, Cody, for a really, really interesting conversation we had. Really want to thank you for the insights in you as great partners, as really knowledgeable and experts on what's happening out there. And I really loved some of those comments. It was great to see that about 2/3 of the audience is ready to travel, and we're here, of course, for you resume travel to support you in that. Mike, I loved your comment that human nature is to connect with each other. So I share your optimism that we will travel and that in-person meetings are actually going to make a difference. And in that sense, we're really excited that the next roundtable session we have in August, we're actually going to do in person with our airline partners. So stay tuned for more news on that. And there's a new today where we've discussed extensively, right, about the need for duty of care. Overwhelmingly, that was something that people see as a hot issue. And I fully echo what you're saying, Danielle, that we need to empower the travelers to do things. So we're excited about some of the things that Kieran mentioned. We're going to introduce Sherpa. We're going to introduce also trip kicks for more clients, where it's really at the level of the booking that people can make those, have those insights in restrictions. But also trip kicks is helpful when we think about empowering the traveler to make decisions on emissions, because it integrates that into the process. So new services coming that really will empower the travelers in these new processes. Anyway, really, we're here to help you make a difference in the new today. Thanks again, Cody, Lance, Mike, Danielle, and everybody. We look forward to meeting you again at the next webinar on August 4th. Going to be in person, broadcasted again to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much there, Hert. And as Hert just mentioned, please do sign up for our next sessions. So you're going to be really interesting. Some great topics to discuss again with different industry partners as well. After this session's finished, please don't go anywhere, because a survey will appear on your screen. We would really appreciate your feedback on topics, panelists, etc. on that side. So